Hello everybody and welcome back to our Doll Jubilee here at the Grovian Doll Museum. We have had a lot of requests to have a program on French dolls. So we are here with a wonderful grouping of all Jumeaus. It's just Jumeaus and we're gonna learn all about them from Michael Kanata. So if you guys have questions, don't be afraid to ask them on the live feed and definitely share the video so more of your doll friends can look and learn here at the Grovian Doll Museum. So Michael, take us away.
Hi, Ruby Lane. Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, it's good to have you back, and the request was for more bebes.
More bebes.
And you know, we have a nice group of bebes in the Grovian of various makers, but of course the two biggies are Bru and Jumeau. And for me as a collector, when I'm thinking about Jumeaus, one thing I really love are the clothes. Those are what are very important to me, is I love the clothes on Jumeau bebes. We also have lots of Jumeau's lady dolls, but today I just want to talk about the bebes. You know, 1874 was a very good year for the Jumeau company because Emile Jumeau took over the company and he married a lovely woman by the name of Ernestine. And behind every great man is a great woman. And I believe, and I do not care if you don't agree with me, without Ernestine Jumeau, they would not have the phenomenal success that they did. Because she was the one with impeccable taste, a very special woman, that ran the beauty department, the dressing department, and she totally changed the world. And think about that in a partnership. If you have someone that can run a factory and innovation and mold making and promotion, which all of those things Mr. Jumeau was fantastic at, that doesn't mean you necessarily have the great sense of style, color, but she did. So it was a perfect match. The descendants of the Jumeau family talked about how hard she worked and that she would choose the fabrics in her carriage and ran the dressing department. So most all of the Jumeau bebes that we have in the museum are dressed by Ernestine Jumeau. When I say that, I don't mean that she sat and sewed the items, but she picked the pattern, she picked the color combinations, and the models. And these are probably really all models, so that there wasn't just one original dress. That would not be cost effective. So I want to start with one of our earliest of our bebes. You know, there are earlier bebes, but I want to start with this little second series portrait, which has all of the hallmarks of Ernestine Jumeau, where she's done these little tabs that are all piped and then used brass buttons to finish it, and the wonderful lace. I think she loved color, but she also loved monochromatic. So this would be one of her pieces. It's all monochromatic, and then using the patterned silk. It's almost like it's embossed, and then using this is a silky, almost like a mohair to have a fur effect. Very, very chic. And then a coordinating lining. But, you know, this is the era of Emile Jumeau. So we have the shoes, like the Hire company. When the doll sat, it showed who made it. So these are marked E. Jumeau. Now, if I were in France and I went to a flea market and I walked up to a seller and I said, "Do you have any Bebe Jumeaus?" And if they weren't doll people, they would think, "Why am I asking for Bebe twins?" Because the name Jumeau means twins in French.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
this is an early...
This is a second series portrait Jumeau, but she's got her wonderful original clothes, and you can see that they're just beautifully preserved.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And what was the around circa for the second series?
This is probably about 1880.
1880.
And this would be considered a drop waist dress, which was one of the main styles that they did at that time. And cost-wise, this would probably be 3 times more expensive than a doll in a chemise. So a dress doll was more. Now, the Jumeau company was able to have dominance over the French marketplace because, we're in about 1880, but the Franco-Prussian War, there was a siege of Paris, which starved people out and destroyed businesses. Their porcelain factory was outside of the périphérique of Paris, so they managed to survive. So they were able to take advantage of the full revitalization. So, this is when luxury things really started to happen.
You can really
And these
tell
were
the early
these were
things.
this was a new innovation because remember before this the dolls that were the height of fashion were the lady dolls. So these are very, very appealing. It's not unlike in the 1950s that you had the sissy dolls, and then you had Miss Revlons, and the child dolls. It was just something totally different. So here you really just see the wonderful work and the beautiful piping and trim, and just so the audience knows, a lot of museums like to wear gloves. I don't wear gloves when I handle the dolls. I go into the washroom and I scrub my hands. And the reason I don't is because if you hold a doll with gloves on, you can't really feel it, and you don't know if you actually have a grip of it. So you can do more damage.
It's easier
that
to
way.
drop the doll.
And it's not like we handle our dolls that often. Now here's another about the same era too, but another one. And here you can see, this is actually a very early EJ, one of the earliest marked EJ. But here you can see the wonderful fabrics that she chose. And it's basically a cotton-backed satin, which is really nice to work with. So that I'm sure was good for her ladies to work with. But the coloration is just spectacular.
Just takes our
and you
breath
can
away.
see that
Love the
it was
floral.
quite bright and it was bold. Ernestine Jumeau was following the latest fashion. So what was happening at the House of Worth, it trickled down to the doll costuming. But again, it's just a wonderful, how they've used the blue and the patterned silk to create this, jacket with this placket in the front.
Just gorgeous.
And then we should probably go into the long face Jumeau or the Triste, the Cody Jumeau. She's got a ton of names. And this is a size 9. And again, it has a beautiful monochromatic costume and just a little bit different face than some. And I think the reason she looks a little different is because of the way her eyes are set. They're all handmade or hand put together, so you'd have a little bit of a different. But again, look at Rachel, the incredible silks and the ruching and how tight that is. And it's just lovely. And then the beautiful braid in the bonnet. Ernestine Jumeau was known for her millinery work. So she was, that is something that, you either have it or you don't. The ability to create a beautiful hat that's not too much. And then
We're
here,
looking at the back of this costume. It
isn't that
really
great?
does have to be discussed because just look at that.
yes, and you've got
Just
your little
phenomenal.
built-in bustle and the wonderful pleating, how the pleats are done. I mean, it's really very super. And this is a very sweet doll that I had my eye on for many, many years, and eventually she found her way to us.
And she has a very distinctive look. This
Yes.
long face look is highly sought after by collectors.
Yes.
And she just has just a wonderful,
And you know what? You can
wonderful
you
face.
can collect all 20 of them, and they'd all be different. And that's what's so fun about collecting.
She has the
in the
wonderful
first place.
mauve eye
And
shadow.
and then the nice original wig, which is very, very sweet.
Yes.
Um,
Pierced ears, applied ears.
And then I think maybe we should look at our little tiny, this is a size 1 EJ. And it has its original costume, which is really kind of a miracle. because it's a tiny doll. And this, for them to survive, I think is, if you just get one in any old condition, you're really lucky, because this would be kind of a doll that a 5 or 6 year old would love to have in their hand and play with. And so I think they were easily broken and lost. But to have one in the original clothes is pretty spectacular.
That size is just so scrumptious.
And then, as I've said in a lot of our presentations, if you like a certain item and you want to study it, clip it, save it. You can. By this era, they started to have armbands on their arms that said Bebe Jumeau, and they were in a kind of plummy red color with gold lettering. But children took them off the dolls because it was almost like an advertisement. So most of them don't have that. Sometimes you can see the remnant of a shadow of where it was. So in order to kind of, is this really a Jumeau costume or Jumeau fabric or Jumeau lace, it's a good idea to clip and save. And I do that. I have files that show me all kinds of different things. I know that your mother's firm a couple weeks ago sold a wonderful Jumeau on Ruby Lane with a fabulous couturier costume, and I just missed it. Someone pushed the button before me.
Someone got to it.
Someone, and that's you snooze, you lose.
You snooze, you lose.
And that's what I get for sleeping in.
When you're discussing Jumeau, and then when you say EJ, could you explain to our dealers what EJ?
I mean, there's various. If you think about a car, right? You know, an XJ8 and all. The Model T, Model A. Think of that these companies had to every year come up with a new product. So you have a new model. Now, most of the marking systems for dolls is not made for you as a little girl in 1875. It's made for the company to know which, that's the 3, the 2, the 1. So they had to come up with new models, new body styles, so the marking system is one way to organize that. So when you say an Emile Jumeau, an EJ, an EJA, these are all different models. And that's kind of beyond what we can teach you here today. But there are great books that have all of that. And, it's a good idea to put together things in a chronological way. One thing I always like to remind people that Emile Jumeau was not doing anything to make our life easier today as far as collecting his items. If an EJA would sell for 10 years, trust me, he would make it. So there would be, and I'm not saying that he did, but there's a lot of overlap. So you can't say they only made them, for 2 minutes. You have to have proof of that. As a business person, I know that if you want to buy a product that we have, we will continue to sell it until no one's interested in it. And that's the way it works.
Right.
But the thing about for the new collector, an EJA or an EJ, those are different models from different starting points. So think of it as that way.
That helps. Thank you.
Yes. And also too, guess what? If you're new starting out this is not easy to figure it out and to know everything. I know that there are people out there in the world that do believe that they know everything. And one thing I can tell you is that the longer that we do this, the more we realize how little we actually really know. And I'm fortunate that I come from a background where you have to learn things every day. My family was in the restaurant business. You got to learn things every day, new recipes, new ideas, new things. And then my other life too was in the world of opera. You can be the biggest star in the world, and guess what? You got to study every day and learn something new. So we've applied that to dolls, which we have a lot less stress when you realize I don't have to know everything.
Right.
I got to know how to figure it out and how to research and study. So I think that that's the thing. And I will add to that, that's the fun part. That's the real fun part.
It is.
So back to
it
the
is
girls.
so fun.
Back to the girls. So then here we have another EJ, but with a transitional look from the portraits.
Oh, I just
and
love
this
her
one
face.
is just in a perfectly preserved costume. that's lovely. And what I want you to show them too is, look at the playfulness of the polka dot ribbon. Just a very sweet, sweet, sweet look. And, you know, just that little thing. Everything is monochromatic. It's very simple. You just have the almost watermelon colored silk, and then the lace, and just a little extra, you know, je ne sais quoi.
Oh, it's just fabulous. This pink, and it hasn't faded. It's just.
Well, these were also too. You know what? These are expensive dolls. These were would have gone to wealthy families, and they would have. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again because maybe we have a new audience. That the story of French dolls is that they were your Sunday doll. You would have played with it in a different way than you'd play with your everyday doll. This was a status symbol because this was French, like French clothes, French perfume,
French
food. You know,
Yeah.
this was French,
Right.
and for Americans and for the English and a lot of people all over the world, it was a great status symbol. So we should then next move to. This is our EJ Deposé, and I'm gonna pull her out of the display.
She just looks like a garden.
She is a garden, and I'm sure that when she was new, Rachel, that this blue was much more vibrant and it's mellowed, but the blue and the brown velvet, and then this wonderful, it's almost like Chantilly lace, wonderful lace, and the gorgeous caramel colored eyes. And look at that mass of flowers.
It's just my favorite thing.
Now, those, I did not add those. That's a mass of flowers. That is some serious today. You'd have to work hard to find that big of a bunch of flowers.
And you wouldn't put that many on one
No,
hat.
you wouldn't.
You'd spare them for more hats.
You would. But here's what's so wonderful about her. If you notice up in here, she has her label that I think we have to flip her upside down to see it.
See if we
But
can
she's
get
got
in
her
there so
labeled
everyone can see.
costume.
Oh, it's this
And that's one of the earliest labels
Look
that
at that,
I know
everyone.
of.
That is a Jumeau label right there. There's a lot of people out there probably trying to pause their screen, get a screenshot of this when you watch this again.
And you know, it's not something that you, it's not something that's easy to find on a doll. I mean, we bought this doll because we thought it was a wonderful doll and it had a wonderful look, and it was part of, you know, what we were wanting to add to our little, you know, Rachel, for us in the Grovian, we don't have to have the most Bebes, the most anything. What we have to have is a group that tells a story. And if you really think about it, all these girls, they're part of an ongoing story of a certain time when things were, you know, beautiful products were being made. So we've got our EJs, our second series portraits, our transitionals, our long face, and then the most successful doll that the Jumeau company ever made, bar none, absolutely, was the doll that we know today as the Tête Jumeau. Now, the French would call it the classic Jumeau. But if you look on the back of the head, it'll say, in red, for young collectors starting out, it'll say Tête Jumeau, which means Jumeau head, because Tête is head. So it means Jumeau head. And it'll be a red mark, and it'll have various sizes from 1 to, I think, 19 or something, or 20. So there's a big range in sizes. Those dolls came nude, costume, fancy costumes. We're really fortunate that our most precious Tête Jumeau we have is this one. And this one is in its original Ernestine Jumeau clothes, and it's in the Kate Greenaway style. It's a pale pink file with incredible lace. And what's incredible about this doll, the shoes, marked shoes.
We're gonna get in there and see those shoes.
Yeah, shoes. I'll move her out of the way.
Thank you. Look at that.
And what's incredible about this doll is the provenance of this doll. This this doll belonged to the Bertoldi family, which the viewers out there that don't know who Bertoldi family is, the Bertoldi created the Statue of Liberty. And it was the French school children that there was a lot of problems with the financing of the Statue of Liberty, or as Mr. Bertoldi called it, my big American girl. So the school children of France collected up the money to pay for the statue. Now they shipped it to America, and there was no money here in America to create the pedestal. And again, school children in America collected up their pennies to pay for the pedestal. So this is really, even though she's a French doll, she went down through the Bertoldi family. And, you know, when we had the opportunity to have this doll, we were over the moon.
She's just stunning. This bonnet is just out of this world.
I'm going to pull it out so you can see it up closer, because it is incredible.
Our studio audience is here. Isn't this bonnet just stunning?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is
gorgeous.
called the Kate Greenaway style because Kate Greenaway was an illustrator and did children's books. And, you know, even though this is totally French, they were influenced by what was going on. But she is like a little pink rose, I think.
She absolutely
is. You know, I feel that we're very, very fortunate to have her ears and her body. Everything is, I mean, she was not played with much even then, because for the Bertoldi family, this was also a French doll, a very special piece.
Very, very, very special.
And then the last one we'll talk about is this little girl. It's a Tête Jumeau, and she's in her original Ernestine Jumeau clothes that are just, you know, they are lovely. And look at this. This is a velvet plaid. And, you know, so we've got the velvet plaid, the challis wool, the cotton-backed satin, and then the rope, which one of the rope is almost used like soutache trim, but it's rope.
It's just wonderful.
Very ropey, and the doll has its original hair set. And then look at the chapeau. I mean, it's really, you know, this doesn't look like a lot of material it takes to make this, but trust me, it takes a lot to make a piece like that. So she's in original shoes, and I'm sure that her socks were at one point the same color as her dress, but you know, it's changed with time.
Just magnificent. What are some tips that you could maybe give us for somebody to authenticate the originality of an outfit on a Jumeau?
Well, the main thing is to look for, as I said earlier, the clipping and saving. When you find things that say they're labeled, like if that piece is labeled, save the photograph of that. You can probably do a screenshot, put it in your file, because that same model will come up maybe with a red velvet top and a gold front. And that's how but I think that the thing is, once you see them and you'll feel it. Now the good news is there are costumers that are doing beautiful things, and they're fantastic. And if they've got, I mean, I think if you can get it as close that, it's like a repair. I have no problem selling a doll that has been repaired. And then you send it to the client and they say, oh my God, this repair looks like it's not even ever been repaired. Well, that's the point.
That's the point.
That's
you
what
don't
we're
want to
going
look like
for.
you've had work done.
Exactly. And so that's what you want to do. And you know what? Costumes do come.
Look at this costume,
Here's a
everybody.
wonderful Jumeau costume that come without a doll, because the doll could be damaged and lost or separated.
Look at the rope on
the
this.
rope.
So will this be for sale on Ruby Lane?
No. No.
Dang it.
No, it won't. Because you know what? It's a tool. I'm not saying that we've sold plenty of great costumes through the years, but this is a tool that it's part of a little history.
Of course.
History
yes,
lesson.
It's just fabulous.
So you know and you know, I love clothes. It's important to me, the whole package of a doll, that I like the way it looks, which is what it should be to everyone. So, you know, if it has a look that I look at it and I think, oh, that's wonderful. I mean, if I look at a doll and think, oh, I could live without you, then it's time for her to go. And
right.
I learned that from our friend John Noble, that you if they stop singing, then it's time to let them go on to somewhere else where they're going to be enjoyed.
Well, just like Wilhelmina right behind you, you said that every day you walk past her and say, "Oh my gosh, you're gorgeous."
I do, and then I also think, when are the babies coming?
Yes, it would be nice to have a bunch of little Wilhelminas.
It would, but it'd also be nice to have some real Jumeaus, like getting them in twos.
Yes, some twins.
Some twins.
Wonderful, wonderful. If you guys enjoyed this video, please share it and sing along with us as we learn all about these wonderful Jumeaus and everything we've been learning the last 3 days here at the Grovian. It's just
3
been
days.
such a magnificent experience. This was fabulous. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Michael.
Rachel. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Rumley.